The bright side of addiction is recovery. Recovery opens your eyes, ears, mind, and heart as you start to see the beauty in the world, beauty that you have been missing. Hi, everybody. I'm Neil Scott. If you're new to our podcast, we welcome you. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're in recovery, know or love someone who is, or maybe you just want to find out more about the recovery process, or maybe you're a bit concerned about someone that you know or love who is harmfully using alcohol or any other drug, this is the podcast for you, as we carry the message of hope and the promise of recovery. And a reminder, you can find all of our podcasts at recoverycoasttocoast.org. Recent episodes have featured interviews with Dion DiMucci from Dion and the Belmonts, a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Congresswoman Madeline Dean, Tom Farley, the brother of the late comedy legend Chris Farley, and former manager of the Colorado Rockies Clint Hurdle, plus many other prominent people in long-term recovery, plus conversations with everyday people in long-term recovery, sharing their story, their insight, and their path. In this edition of Recovery Coast to Coast, we meet Judy York. Judy's a retired counselor and nurse who partied hardy for 30 years. She was the life of the party until she wasn't. She finally threw in the towel and decided to attend her first 12-step meeting, and she has been continuing her recovery for close to 18 years. Here's a quick clip from today's program with Judy York.
If you really look in your heart of hearts, you realize that it's hurting you. It's making you sad. It's making you lonely. It's causing you to be secretive and inauthentic. It's taking away your joy. It's not worth it. It really isn't. Now that I'm a happy teetotaler, I partied hard for 30 years. But now I realize it's just smoke and mirrors. There's nothing good about it, really. The sober life is well worth giving all you have to get it. It's a true gift.
And later on in the podcast, on The Last Word, we'll hear from a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the phenomenally talented Joe Walsh, an early member of the Eagles and considered one of the top 100 guitarists in rock and roll, and a guy, of course, in long-term recovery. Our website is recoverycoasttocoast.org, and if you would like to help us out financially, or maybe know of a foundation or a corporation that might be interested in underwriting part of our program, we would love to hear from you, and we would be ever so grateful. A reminder, our email address is recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. We'd love to hear from you. Recovery Coast to Coast is supported by Sundown M Ranch, one of America's oldest, least expensive, and most successful treatment programs. They're listed in Newsweek magazine's recent list of America's top treatment providers. They have successfully treated over 200,000 individuals and family members since their humble beginnings nearly 60 years ago. Their staff is well-trained, and some of them have been at Sundown a long time, many having gone through Sundown as a patient many, many years ago. They are compassionate, understanding. They are also a not-for-profit treatment program, and that means that, well, frankly, they can have much lower rates than a lot of the fancy silk sheet facilities. You see, their bottom line is not financial, it's long-term recovery. Treatment at Sundown is abstinence-based, it's 12-steps centered. It provides a variety of services, including detox, education, individual therapy, group therapy, exercise, and nutrition programs, as well as chaplain services and a comprehensive family program, and the all-important continuing care planning. You see, inpatient treatment for addiction is not a quick fix. It's just the beginning of hopefully a long-term recovery. Sundown M Ranch is not a treat and release program, always looking for the next person to fill a bed. They work closely with each individual upon their release, and they provide a bridge back into the family, back into the workplace, back into the community. Their staff works with most major insurance programs, and if finances are a problem, they can work with you. They work in partnership with one of the leading healthcare lending organizations. Sundown is located on 30 beautiful acres outside of Yakima, Washington, not far from Seattle. If you go to their website, sundown.org, you can get lots of information, as well as see some of the photos of their facility. It's where recovery begins, sundown.org. Time for some coffee and some conversation. Now, I'm excited to share my conversation with Judy York. Now, Judy is a retired counselor and nurse. She lives down in Oregon. And after 30 years of hard drinking and partying, she was done, totally spent. She picked up the yellow pages and began her journey to a more rewarding, fulfilling life. She'll tell you all about it. Recovery Coast to Coast, America's voice for recovery. And joining us in this particular episode of Recovery Coast to Coast is a woman from Corvallis, Oregon. Her name is Judy York, and she recovers out loud. She's a retired nurse, and she's coming up on 18 years of long-term recovery very, very soon, January 19th to be exact. And she joins us by phone. Judy, how are you?
I'm great, Neil. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you right from the get-go, what does recovery mean to you today, approaching 18 years?
Well, it has given me a life, of course, that I couldn't have imagined. And when I decided to get sober, it had been after a long, slow burn of 30 years or so of drinking and weed. And I was very lonely, hopeless, sad, insomnia, living the double life, trying to maintain a persona of being a professional and looking okay. And it takes the same course that it does for anybody after drinking that long, kind of dying on the inside and not convinced that it was possible for me to get sober and stay sober because I had never been able to, trying on my own.
Did any of your friends or family say, Judy, I think you got a problem?
No, actually,
Wow.
People would even a counselor one time almost argued with me when I said I thought I might be an alcoholic. And then he asked how I drank. And because I drank trying to maintain a, semblance, and I was secretive, I hid it. So I tried to keep up appearances, and so even people close to me didn't really think that I looked or presented like an alcoholic. And, I kind of white-knuckled and tried to keep my drinking to the point that I wasn't horribly hungover so that I could still functioning alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
But still drinking, almost a bottle of wine, the equivalent of that every night. That's definitely alcoholic.
Take me back to your first drink.
I didn't really start drinking until college, so I was very straight all through school, high school, didn't party till I got to college in Ashland. Southern Oregon College is what it was called back then. I learned later that the college that I attended in Ashland was voted by Playboy as one of the top 10 party schools of the country.
Oh, boy.
I really started drinking when I got to the dorm. And then I found I was good at it.
Off to the races.
Oh, yeah. Loved it.
When did you first notice that, something was different in your drinking?
Well, I noticed right away that I really loved it, looked forward to it, couldn't wait, loved getting altered, loved how it helped me relax, and I was fairly proud that I could outdrink most people. I had a high tolerance. I just thought that it was because I was pretty smart, that I could have 7 drinks and still not be slurring. And I didn't understand a whole lot about alcoholism. I was just a good drinker, could outdrink the boys.
Now, you're a retired nurse.
Yes,
and
counselor.
In the nursing profession, while you were drinking, that must have presented some problems.
Oh, I never drank at work, or I never came into work after drinking, I worked night shift for years, and there were a lot of us that were nurses together and get off at 7:30 in the morning and go over to a friend's house and start to party.
Wow.
So we could party in the morning after a 12-hour shift, and, we were young enough to be able to tolerate that.
Take me back to January 19th, 18 years ago, or maybe January 18th, and what led you to the end, which actually became the beginning.
I decided to stop drinking January 1st. So my last hurrah basically was New Year's Eve with my last sad, lonely, bottle and a half of champagne by myself. And then I had planned to not have a drink on January 1st. But I don't count that as my sobriety date because I still had a little weed left. So January 19th was the first day that I had complete sobriety from everything.
And how did you find your way into the rooms?
I had tried to resist AA for a long time and try to do it on my own, which I've heard a lot of people think they can. Got a couple of books from the library that appealed to me and was definitely interested in getting sober without AA. Couldn't do it, it wouldn't stick. And so it got to the point where I didn't truly believe that it was possible for me. I just thought maybe it's not in the cards for me this lifetime to get sober.
Had you tried AA before?
No. And I didn't know anybody in AA, and I didn't really know anything about AA. So I like to say I went in cold turkey. I looked at the yellow pages back then, called the hotline, and they told me where a noon meeting was going to be at a local church. And I just went there by myself for the first time. I didn't know that I was going to cry at that first meeting, but it was one of those ones where they go around the circle and everybody introduces themselves and says that they're an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as those words came out of my mouth for the first time to a room of strangers, I burst into tears. I just thought it was the worst failure that I could ever have imagined.
How did the group respond?
They immediately, without even asking me, sent around what I called the brochure, and all the women signed it, and they handed that to me at the end. And it blew me away that these women would put their phone numbers down and encourage me to call them when they didn't know me. And I didn't realize, of course, that they do that for all newcomers. They were very welcoming. They weren't judging me. And the way they spoke, I knew that they knew what it felt like to be where I was, which was utterly defeated and hopeless and in great pain, emotional pain, And there were about 40 people there. So at the time, I like to say I didn't even know there were that many alcoholics in Corvallis, but but there were.
And so after that meeting, did you immediately start attending meetings, or did you sit back and think about it for a while?
No, I loved what I heard at that first meeting, the sincerity, and I was suspicious and listening for anything that might resemble them being cult-like or pushing me or anything that was going to be what I considered not truthful or whatever. So I was on guard for bullshit, and I did not hear it. I felt that they were actually speaking sincerely from their hearts, and that really made an impression on me. I loved it immediately. And the following week, I asked the first pretty girl that smiled at me to be my sponsor, and she's the one that handed me the phone list. The very next week, I asked her to sponsor me, and she said that she would be honored, and we just launched into meeting every week and reading the steps together.
So that first initiation into AA shattered your stereotype of what you thought AA was.
Absolutely, yes. I was so surprised that people seemed to look so healthy and well and stable and clean. Unconsciously, you imagine a group of AA people to not look that good,
That's one of the stigma stereotypes of the disease. That people think it's it's the down and outers, it's the the people on the street, and alcoholism is an equal opportunity disease. It doesn't give a
all
shit
walks of life
of what your walk of life is. It's a disease that affects everyone. So tell me about the first 90 days and the first year. What was that like for you? Was there a struggle? Was there a temptation to go back to drinking at all?
No, I had, I hate to say this, but I had really made my mind up after, and I had almost 30 years out there.
Wow.
And I don't want to assume that if people don't completely make up their minds, and because that sounds too much like self-will, but I had really decided you've had all the drinks you need to last for the rest of your life. You've used up your tokens. This is it. I kind of want to tell you what the spiritual awakening was for me that helped me decide to get sober. So it was in December, right around Christmas time, mid-December. I had seen A Christmas Carol many times, many different versions, and there I was watching another version of it on TV by myself, drinking my wine from the box with the spigot, crying, feeling very, very sad because I had been thinking for a while that I needed to get sober, and I was really sad in my life and, depressed and unhappy, and I wanted to get sober and didn't know if I could. And, it's just a mess when you're wanting out and can't get out. So I'm watching this movie with the ghost. I like to talk about how it really felt like suddenly there was a ghost in the room with me as I'm crying over my wine. I was told, if you keep going like this, you're going to be dead in just a few years, sad, sick, lonely, and full of regret, and wondering what the hell happened to my life. But I was told, this is a turning point for you. And, I was 47, and basically I was shown my death, and I was told, you can turn this around, and it's do or die time, girl. You've got to do something about this, and it's no joke. This is going to kill you. And I had been worried about my health for a long time. I wanted to be sober and healthy and couldn't seem to manage it. So watching A Christmas Carol just kind of galvanized my opinion about you can do something about this. There's still time. It's not too late. So that's when I decided, look in the yellow pages and find yourself an AA meeting and go.
So has there been any temptation to drink during the first 90 days or a year?
No, because I saw people at that first meeting, older people and professional people and all kinds of, different people. And I immediately got competitive and I figure whatever works, and I'm like, if they can do it and they're telling me that it's possible to get sober and stay sober. So they were holding out that message of hope to me at that very first meeting. And I'm like, I'm going to be in that club of the people that get this and stick with it and choose sobriety and do whatever it takes. Just be willing to do whatever it takes to keep yourself sober and don't pick up. And I felt a little sorry for myself at times. And I remember saying, oh, come on now, just open another Fresca and buck up because this is what you're doing now. It's important. You're choosing to live.
How important was a sponsor for you?
I wanted a sponsor immediately, and she was phenomenal. I worked with her for 2 years, and then it was kind of mutually decided that I should get a different sponsor to help me specifically with codependent issues because it turns out, a nurse and a counselor that's codependent. And I didn't understand even how I was operating with other people. But I got this other sponsor who was in a similar situation to me and really worked the steps for 8 years intensively with a lot of writing around my codependence. And now I'm on my third sponsor. She's the one that has really encouraged me to do this book, to do these writings.
You've written a book called My Homework is Love, of course, and it's kind of a personal journey on A Course in Miracles. What led you to write that book, and how long ago did you write it?
Well, I worked on the writings for the last 5 years or so, and they're just little spiritual ideas that were on cards, a gift set of cards from the Course in Miracles. And I actually assigned myself to, because some of them are kind of complicated and a little hard to understand. And I thought maybe if I just used a page of writing about the idea, explaining it, what it means to myself in my own language. And so then I would share these with my friend. She really liked my writings. Eventually, I'd share them with some of my other sponsees or people and was encouraged to try to publish them. I didn't intend to publish them, so they're basically personal journal writings that I just did for my own benefit. But I thought if it helps me, maybe it can help someone else. So why not?
I mentioned you were a retired nurse, and you said also a counselor. How did you get into the counseling field? How did that all come about? And at what point in your sobriety?
Oh, I I was a counselor long before I had any ideas about getting sober.
Oh.
So psychology was my first love. I fell in love with it in high school. I really wanted to try to understand why we do the things we do and feel the things we feel, because I felt like I was pretty confused. So I loved studying psychology in college. So that was my first career. I worked as a counselor for about 10 years in my 20s and then realized that it might be a good idea to go to nursing school to be able to move around a little more and probably make a little better money too. And I figured that nursing and counseling go pretty well together. So I went back to school.
Good for you. 18 years coming up. Amazing, one day at a time. What do you say to a woman who is struggling today and maybe she's been to a few AA meetings and just kind of, dipping her toe into it, but still drinking and still thinking that, I'm not sure this is going to work for me?
Well, it was pointed out to me that a lot of people in this world actually don't drink. It's not that unheard of. Some people choose simply not to drink alcohol and get by just fine, for whatever their reasons are. Alcohol doesn't help, and it's so hard on human flesh. I mean, there's nothing good about it, and it's so psychologically addicting because when you're drinking and in it, you seem like you still have your problems, but you don't care about them for a little while, and you feel kind of relaxed for a little while. But that goes away so fast, and it has diminishing returns, obviously. Eventually, alcohol is deadly. It's like, and I've heard it said in the meetings, you're not to have this one little tiny corner of the buffet table, the beautiful, large, huge, unbelievable buffet table of life, but you don't get this one little section, but you can have all the rest. So why not just give up that one little section that's not doing you any good? If you really look in your heart of hearts, you realize that it's hurting you. It's making you sad. It's making you lonely. It's causing you to be secretive and inauthentic. It's taking away your joy. It's not worth it. It really isn't. Now that I'm a happy teetotaler, I partied hard for 30 years, but now I realize it's just smoke and mirrors. There's nothing good about it, really. The sober life is well worth giving all you have to get it. It's a true gift.
It certainly is, and I appreciate you sharing your gift with people who are listening to our podcast. Judy, I thank you so much, and I wish you continued success one day at a time and one meeting at a time, and all the best in the new year.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Judy, who carries the message of hope and the promise of recovery out loud. By the way, I want to remind listeners of this podcast that if you would like to tell your story of recovery, regardless of the path you've chosen, and as long as you have been in continuous recovery for at least a year or more, do drop us a note at recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. Coming up next, some comments on long-term recovery in The Last Word from musician Joe Walsh. She's a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and a member of the Eagles. We will do that in just 30 seconds.
She has always been your baby, but when your daughter got into drugs and alcohol, she turned into a stranger. What do you do? Where do you turn? Contact Sundown M Ranch. Sundown's nationally recognized youth treatment program guides young people back to a life free of drugs and alcohol. All treatment is gender-specific and directed by caring certified professionals in a safe environment. You can get your daughter back and get to know her again. Go to www.sundown.org to learn more.
And now, as promised, here is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member and a member of the Eagles, Joe Walsh, who gets today's last word.
If you have problems in your life that are directly the result of alcohol or whatever substance you're doing, you have a problem. And at some point, you work for it. It doesn't work for you anymore. And very subtly, without you noticing, whatever you're on will convince you that you can't do anything without it. And then it's got you. I chased it for 30 years, and it wasn't working for me. And I thought, oh, well, obviously I'm not drinking nearly enough. And that wasn't it. I needed help. And the hardest thing to do, the phone can weigh 30 pounds, pick up the phone and ask for help. Because there's life after addiction, and it's good.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Recovery Coast to Coast, the national podcast. If you've enjoyed our podcast, please share it with others via social media or simply tell some friends about it. You can find all of our podcasts at recoverycoasttocoast, one word, .org. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us, again, our email, recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. And also, please hit the subscribe or follow button. It's free, and you'll be notified the next time we publish a podcast. If you're considering treatment for a friend or a loved one, be sure and visit NAATP.org/AID. That's the Addiction Information Directory. It's a listing of those treatment programs that adhere to strict ethical guidelines. And join us next time for America's Voice for Recovery, Recovery Coast to Coast. Another shout out to our sponsoring organization, Sundown M Ranch, where recovery begins, sundown.org. I'm Neil Scott, reminding you to stay healthy, live in gratitude, and be kind to others. Remember, the bright side of addiction is recovery. Pass it on.